Okay, folks. I'm gonna title this video like Nofap update. Date 121. That's the day I'm on. Um, but this video isn't exactly about that. So I'm sitting in the parking lot again at work. It's Tuesday, day after President's Day. I actually got up like super early, about 5 a.m. or so. And got out of the house. It's a little bit past, I think, 6:15. And you don't have what you call it, I don't have the car, the clock on. I might actually just put that on so I can keep these lights going. But okay, it's 6:18 a.m. and wait a bit for the beeping to stop. But as much as I'm calling this video, Nofap update, blah blah blah, it's really not about that. It's more like the drama continues. Because I wrote these bullet points down last night, but this is kind of the cycle that it goes through with my family, where some crisis like this happens, something that um, I've been predicting for a long, long time. I get angry. I get pulled into all the drama, and it's not even just drama. It's like the crisis, because it is a genuine crisis that I get pulled into. Even though I'm 450 plus miles away, I get angry. At the people I perceive as causing these problems, which, I believe there's enough data to quote unquote back up my, or to convert my hypothesis into a theory, a model that explains what's really going on. But that'll happen. I'll end up, flying off at the mouth, so to speak, especially when certain members of the family want to drop little juicy tidbits here and there to kind of get me all riled up against, their arch nemesis. And then I end up flying off at the mouth and saying some very choice words, so to speak, stuff that I normally wouldn't say. But then basically the backlash happens later on when, in this case, my dad will like bounce back, at least enough to, be, oh, I gotta lay down the kibosh and we need to change things and all this stuff. And they'll try to make it seem like I'm part of the problem when I'm not causing any of this at all. Or, I have like a minimal amount of influence on it because I'm all the way out here and I'm been essentially handling my own situation, not, causing my dad a whole bunch of grief. Um, you know, but that'll end up happening because it's kind of like I end up playing the role of the almost like the bulldog they send in, to like rough up this person or so, or catch that thief or catch that criminal and drag them to justice. But then if I, it's like, oh, I go quote unquote a little too far, or they basically like get me all riled up so that I'm like that, and and I get turned into this this mad dog, crazy monster who needs to be reined in and tie him down and beat him down and get him back in line, sort of thing. And this is why, look, I need to be aware of this sort of stuff continually, but at the same time, like, I wrote it down here. I need to cut ties with my family, because I see this stuff happening, and these are folks, since they're my family, like they know me too well. It's almost like I have to go even more years without contact with them and continually change myself and build myself into a new person, to the point that they don't have any hooks in me and they can't pull me out about and affect my emotions and get me angry or sad or whatever the case may be. I know my dad, as much as I love him and care about him and worry about him, he's wrapped around my sister's finger. My uncle's wrapped around her finger. My dad's whole side of the family, her whole influence is like there, and they'll be looking at her as some sort of savior or hero, and me as its villain who, oh, I abandoned the family because I dared move out of the house and start to support myself and, get my degree and get a job and do all these things, and not jump in the car and drive 8 hours down there when I don't have the money, and I'd be in danger of losing my job, possibly getting, COVID, or, whatever else could go down that would make it such that I would basically end up stranded down there, because that doesn't matter, to them at least. You're only a real man if you're willing to throw yourself under the bus or throw yourself in the way of a bullet and sacrifice everything you've built. But, you know, anyways, I think one of those last few hooks they have in me is a way to contact me or control me or influence me is my phone. And it's just sort of like, blessing in disguise, sort of a double-edged sword, because my dad, and I don't think he should have done this because of the money issues right now. But he did a really nice thing, which also is, like I said, double-edged sword, where he got me this phone to replace my old phone. Of course, there were issues like with data charges and whatnot, why he did that, but he was also just trying to be a good dad, But problem is, see, on my old phone, I blocked my sister's number after she was causing me all sorts of grief. And, she obviously doesn't care if she does that or not, because she did that again last night. But I need to get a new SIM card for this with a new number for this iPhone. Like I said, the only thing connecting me with them is my phone. And I'll get to some of the sort of darker side of that sort of stuff, that it's not just, oh, if I do that, everything's going to be great or whatever. I'm not going to have any regrets or whatever. That's not the case. But, this last weekend, my sister basically tried using this crisis with my dad to rope me back into the family BS, as I call it. There's that expression, never let a good crisis go to waste. That's essentially what she did, because, it was the first time in months that she'd ever been able to contact me, talk to me, keep me, on the line for an extended period of time, because it was like, okay, I don't care, all this other stuff, blah, 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 dad's in the hospital, and, you need to get back in the loop, and you need to stay on the line, and you need to, this laundry list of things, because, this is what matters right now, we'll settle all that stuff later, or whatever the heck the case may be. But I know it's not going to happen. Like I said in one of my other videos, and I don't remember if I uploaded this video or if this is one of the ones that I did upload, but, best case scenario was that my dad would be bouncing back, blood pressure would be dropping back to normal levels, the brain bleeding would, taper off and end, and then he'd be back home, and it would be the same cycle of, BS again up until the next blowout, which, it's like a ticking time bomb. You don't know if this is going to be the time. If this is going to be the time that, he doesn't come back, sort of thing. And they don't care. They don't care. They just see him as a freaking utility, and they're going to try and if you confront them about this, they'll be like, oh, this makes me feel so bad. How could you say that about me? I'm not like that. Oh, you're a bleepity bleep 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 for saying that, sort of thing. But, my sister, my mom, they all want to punish me for daring to say what was needed to be said. And maybe that wasn't the curse words I dropped, the slurs I used, but definitely pointing out the fact that, my mom and my sister have been basically driving my dad into this sort of a state. And, just because my mom's used to lording over people and talking down to them. In many ways, same thing with my sister. Because like last night she was saying about how, oh, she's in control of this phone and that phone, and oh, she's not going to let my mom contact me because my mom had a spat, over the course of this crisis, which is, basically still ongoing. Pretending like, she was this referee, and oh, since she's holding my mom back, well, here's, quid pro quo, this is what you need to do for me. You need to be my support, all this kind of stuff. And, again, like, I fired back at her. I have all these other things on my plate right now up here. I can't be doing all this kind of stuff. I can't be getting roped back into that. So much of the reason why I had to leave and move this far away was because there was no way in heck that I was going to be able to get my act together and get all these things sorted out and taken care of when I was having to basically, babysit both my mom and my sister. And yeah, my dad saw me this rock of stability and, was kind of just thinking about that, not thinking about my needs or my future or anything of that nature. Of course, still demanding all sorts of things of me, but we're expecting. That'd be a better way of putting it. Expecting, certain things of me that were diametrically opposed to his, need for a rock of stability in the family. Being, me being that I was taking care of myself at that point. I wasn't. I mean, I've never drunk any alcohol or done any drugs, so I wasn't, dicking around like that. I was the one, healthy person who was seeming to cope with life well enough, that I wasn't causing all those sorts of problems for him. I caused other problems, but needless to say, I was like far more on the side of handling things, especially after probably the halfway mark of my time there after I came back from my first foray into college. After that sort of three and a half year mark, I really turned a corner and was getting my act together. And but it didn't matter. It was sort of like I got to be this rock of stability, and it slowed me down. It slowed me down so much. Like, it made me take probably 3 to 5 years extra just to graduate from undergrad because of all of that. But again, that didn't matter. It was their needs over mine, and I don't count because I have the XY chromosome set up. But anyways, my sister was using guilt trips last night, talking about her medical conditions, which, see, I don't have any way of confirming any of this stuff. Um, I know stuff is bad for her, and that's putting it lightly, but she's claiming stuff like organ failure and hernias and all this kind of stuff, and it's a lot of these things I see as, again, as fallout of her initial infection event, the long-term consequences, plus her refusal to take care of herself, to, eat healthy or to get any exercise or whatever the case may have been. I mean, look, I've found ways in the past, and I need to, like, sort of reinstitute these sort of pathways, if you will, or these, habits. But I have found ways, for instance, you can control weight without having to be going out there pounding the ground, 100 miles a week running or something crazy like that. Just, moderation and diet and, controlling what exactly you eat and things of that nature. And even basic stuff like that where she wouldn't have to be going and trying to be, Rambo or Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, you know, she never wanted to do that kind of stuff. So I see a lot of stuff as fallout of that. Other stuff, because again, I'm not, a medical expert, I can't, I mean, if this stuff is true, I would have to see all the data. I would have to learn all this stuff. I would have to understand all these biological processes to be able to really give a solid answer on their solid opinion. Other than that, like, I can only go off what she's telling me, and it sounds bad, but at the same time, like, see, it's all this sort of like trade-off, that either you compromise your strategy in life towards success or they compromise theirs. And the irony has been throughout so much of, from what I can tell of history, that the only way that ultimately humanity was able to succeed and survive was when men put themselves first, not to the level of psychopathy or narcissism, but to the extent that they got their act together, built themselves up, became somebody successful, powerful, wealthy, etc. And as a result, because of their innate human nature of, loving their family or loving a woman or loving their kids, you know, other people were able to benefit off of their success and survive and such. But when men didn't do that, that's by and large when things, really went sideways. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned about all this stuff, and I'm also concerned about this whole thing of entrapment because, I think they're, and, whether my sister's like consciously doing this or not, you know, there's a whole possibility of them trying to basically trip me up here enough with work that I get, let go and I don't have a source of income, and then I'm forced to go back there and I basically get trapped there. Because, as much as my dad may have like left behind a lot of the culture from what he came from, there is a there is a sort of trend, and I'm not sure if this is also in other cultures. There probably are, and maybe it's not even cultural. Maybe it's just a matter of like if the family is full of psychopaths, they're so. Which everything I said about my family makes it seem like that. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but there's this whole idea of like, if you have that one rebellious kid in the family who kind of sees the light, figures out what's going down, and tries to hightail it out of there to go off and just build his or her own life and live free of that. Um, it's almost like they got to pull that guy back in or that girl back in and punish them somehow. And in some extreme cases, it does mean that the guy or gal gets murdered by their own family, which I'm not saying my family would do that kind of thing. I'm not saying they're like, these bloodthirsty murderers, but there's I'm kind of the philosophical opinion there's more than one way to, for someone to be murdered or killed or to lose their life. Um you can be physically alive, but like in every other way you're like stuck in this sort of routine or this loop of like, basically spending the prime years of your life, your 20s, 30s, 40s, perhaps even 50s, you know, having to see to the needs of members of your family who mucked up their own lives, and you're essentially having to sort of, in a sense, pay for their sins. Um, and when all is said and done, and they either pass away or things finally get sorted out for whatever happens, I don't know. They find some source of income they can live off, or they don't need you around or whatever. By that time that you're able to walk away, oh, you're in your late 40s, your early 50s, maybe even into your 60s, and your life is basically over at that point. You might as well be dead. And I know that's really messed up to say, but that's so much of my fear. I needed to be asleep early last night, but it's kind of, I put it here, it was all mucked up now because I wrote this last night. But the whole thing was like, it was 8:30, and I know I need to wind down by that point so I can be in bed and get enough rest, all of that. And that's when she decides to call on my dad's phone. I'm thinking like, wait, is this dad like is he calling me, sort of thing? And no, it turns out to be her, because she's basically using him as a means of getting at me. And she just starts in on me, all this stuff, and it's just talking down to me like I'm this misbehaving kid, and I need to get in line. I need to knock off my BS. And I mean, he was practically on the borders of telling me I need to man the bleep up, which I hate that expression, because it's always used, in my experience at least, when they need you to go and bend over backwards for them and sacrifice for them, and damage yourself and hurt yourself and all this stuff for their sake, compromise yourself for their sake, um, basically undermining yourself so that they can, compensate for some screw up on their part, or get something out of you that they need. And if you're not doing that, oh, you're not a real man, as if she has the right to determine who is a real man, or what masculinity is, and that sort of thing. I absolutely hated the way she was talking to me. And at first I tried to be sort of neutral and go, okay, yeah, okay, fine, okay, yeah, I get it, da, 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 da. But then when she went over to the point of like, and you need to be here, and you need to be my support, I don't have anybody, and I'm just like, yeah, you've had dad there for all this freaking time, and now that you're afraid that he might be going because of all this garbage with my mom and with her, now you're trying to basically like, it's almost like monkey branching, you know? Like, oh, dad's failing, dad might be gone. Oh, I need some, I need a raft to jump off onto, or what is it, like a lifeboat to get on board as this ship is going down, sort of thing. And I'm not being that freaking lifeboat. When she did that, that's when I cut her off. I was like, no, you know what? I'm willing to, be neutral, and not get into another spat with mom, or, you or dad or whatever. But like, I'm not doing that, because I got far too many responsibilities on my plate right now up here, and I can't afford to be, falling through on those. I need to follow through, not fall through on those. But anyways, that was sort of the end of that conversation. Can't believe I actually got up this early today, but I'm pretty sure today's gonna kind of suck, to put it lightly. Especially if I somehow fell through on some responsibilities or something like that. But I'm here about 20 minutes early, trying to go in to check up on some stuff before I just do whatever I can basically if I did screw up to mitigate the coming kibosh, the coming calling out or punishment or whatever, or consequences. But ultimately, and this is like the really messed up part to me. I was writing this, last night. I'll call them manly tears, but I kind of started tearing up again, getting a bit emotional. Usually don't, but seems like I had to, in order to save myself, it's like I had to let my father go. It's a really hard decision because, you see, if I could separate him away from them, even if that meant him going back to like his, country of birth and just living, remainder of his life over there, free of them, like, that's what I would have to be able to do. Because whenever I'm able to deal with him one-on-one, man-to-man, it seems like most of the time, like, he's this rational, logical person, and he understands, and he's willing to, allow me my freedom, my independence, because he's like, okay, because, him being my father, raising me up, so much of what he did, which at times seemed unfair and, really made me angry. It was this sort of deal of like, I need you to toughen up because I'm not always going to be there. And when the time comes, you're going to have to be able to fend for yourself. And I won't have done my job as your father if I don't make sure that you're capable of that, And him understanding, a lot of cases that expecting me to drop everything, run off down to where they're at, etc., would be undermining all of that, and it would destroy my ability to really get it together, But obviously, my sister and my mom looking at from the angle they look at, they don't get that. And as long as they're able to wrangle him and have him wrapped around their fingers and control him and use him, like, that's just not going to be the case. And it's like, he would have to be willing and able to walk away from all that, especially since with all the stuff that happened, that it's kind of like him being slowly but surely, bit by bit, sometimes in bursts, sometimes measure by measure, being slowly drained of his life force, But for now, I've got to look out for myself, and that means not getting dragged into the drama. And if my dad tries to have some sort of talk with me in the near future, I'm going to have to tell him all that sort of stuff. And, other than that, if my sister tries to call me, if it's some sort of odd time of the day or night that I'm going to call my dad's phone, it's most likely my sister, because she's never really cared to know my schedule. She just kind of expects to be able to call and just demand things, because she can do that with my dad. But anyways, I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that and somehow squeeze into my schedule contacting, the phone services, getting different SIM card, getting the payment, all that information transferred over to me, because, it's like Aaron Clary talks about, okay, rites of passage for being a guy these days, or a man, becoming a man. It's like one of those is, moving out of your parents' house, not taking money from them. And I've done that up to the point of like 95% of the time, because if you think about, okay, if they're paying for this phone, then that's me taking money from them, and I need to really cut that final umbilical cord for good, to really 100% be a man, that everything that I, get to use, or so that I have to be paying for on my own. And that'll be real, 100% independence, where they can't come back and, say what they would say. And even if they didn't say anything, I still got to do that in order to, be 100% a man. So anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you folks around. Hopefully things don't get worse. So again, I'll see you folks around. Bye-bye.